Don't wait for users to report problems. Raygun gives you complete visibility on errors, crashes, and performance problems affecting your end users. You can replicate issues in seconds rather than digging through log files and having to rely on users to report errors or crashes. Raygun gives you a window into how users are really experiencing your software applications. It has full support for JavaScript and all other major languages and platforms. It takes less than 10 minutes to set up, and you can get a free 14-day trial by going to raygun.com and signing up today. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Adventures in Angular show. This week on our panel we have Alyssa Nicoll.
Hey everybody.
Joe Eames.
Hey everybody.
Shai Reznik.
Coming to you live from inside the jar.
I'm Charles Max Wood from devchat.tv. And this week we have a special guest, and that is Bryan Forbes. Bryan, do you want to say hi?
Hey everyone.
Now, you haven't been on the show before, so I thought maybe you could just give us a brief introduction, who you are, what you do, what you're interested in, where you work, all that good stuff.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, I'm Bryan Forbes. I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I work for SitePen, and we are a consultancy out of Palo Alto, but nobody really works there. Everybody's distributed. We work on JavaScript applications, have been doing that for a long time. I have been with SitePen coming up on 11 years now, and we've done work for a variety of different companies. As a consultancy, we get to do a lot of different things. Sorry, we are known for the Dojo toolkit, but we have been branching out, and we always try and keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the JavaScript world. So recently, we've been doing a lot more Angular work. We're gearing up for a Dojo 2 release, and we also write the intern testing framework. As for what I enjoy to do, or what I enjoy doing, I really enjoy spending time with my family, my kids. I have 3 girls and a lovely wife. I like to read. I like reading nonfiction, mostly theology. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Sounds like fun. And just to, for the listener's sake, on JavaScript Jabber, I think Joe was on that episode. We talked to a couple of guys from SitePen about Dojo. So if you're curious about what's going on in the Dojo 2 world, go check that episode out and go see what they're doing over there on that. So, what we brought you on today to talk about is testing Angular with the Intern tool. Do you want to just give us kind of the 5,000-foot view on what Intern does?
Yeah, Intern is a testing framework, and it's designed to write all of your tests, unit, functional, end-to-end, in the same framework, run them in the same framework, and then be able to run them across different browsers, different versions of browsers, all in one command. The phrase that we kind of came up with when we were originally coming up to why it's called Intern is that we wanted to let the intern do our testing for us, just like running out and getting coffee. It can do a variety of different things: code coverage, accessibility, visual regression, performance testing with benchmark.js. But kind of the bread and butter of Intern is that it's designed to write all of your application tests modularly and be able to run them in one go. That's cool. Kind of 5,000. I hope that's 5,000 feet.
Yep. Makes sense to me. Just to kind of get the ball rolling, and I know everybody probably has questions, so we're somewhat familiar with using a unit testing framework, and then we're also somewhat familiar with using something like Protractor for our end-to-end tests. So,
right.
So how is this approach different from kind of pulling together? I guess it's all in one tool. That's one thing, but how is this approach different from some of the approaches in some of the unit testing and Protractor and stuff?
Right. So I would imagine that most of your listeners are familiar with kind of the Angular 2/4 unit testing environment, which is Karma with Protractor. Karma for unit tests and Protractor for end-to-end / functional tests, right? And so you've kind of got, unless you're using Angular CLI, and even then, you've got two configurations, right? You've got one for Karma and you've got one for Protractor, and you got to make sure that you're running all of your Protractor tests in the same browsers that you're running your Karma tests in, and then you've got to set up the drivers for Karma and the drivers for Protractor and make sure that they're all using the same ones, and then everybody usually just kind of defaults to Phantom.js and calls it good, because everything else is pretty hard to set up. With Intern, and with Intern, we've tried to make it easy to set up one configuration for all of your tests. You tell it, I want to run an Internet Explorer 9, 10, and 11, Chrome latest and -1, Safari latest, Firefox, whatever version they're at, and you can get pretty specific, and then you can have different parameters, but then your unit tests and functional tests share those configurations, right? And your test successes and failures are all combined together, so you're not running two tools. So it works really well in continuous integration. Because you're not having to fire off two separate sessions, for instance, in Travis, one for your unit tests and one for your functional tests. So that's one of the big advantages.
What was the motivation behind creating this tool?
Right. So we started Intern in 2012, kind of December of 2012. So about that time. And at that time, there wasn't really a great cross-browser solution for cross-browser testing. Again, it was usually like Phantom.js or whatever was available at that time, which it's not a browser. And so you're basically adding another target to your matrix, or you'd basically just open your tests in all the browser engines and just run them manually. There wasn't really a great solution for spinning things up, and having some tool spin up browsers for you. So our big motivation was that at the time, there also was no tool out there that had the concept of a JavaScript module. Most of them were you write your test, you throw everything in a script tag, or you just concatenate everything together and throw it into one script tag, and then run it. And one thing that SitePen and the Dojo Toolkit have always been big on is modularizing code. And as we've seen lately, that's a much more popular, if not the most popular, way to write your code, for various different reasons. And so at the time, the way to write modular code that would run well in the browser was with AMD or UMD. And so that was another reason why we wrote Intern, was there wasn't really a test framework that had AMD in mind, or JavaScript modules, browser modules.
Yeah, cool. Makes sense. So I remember back then, I think at the same time, a small little tool called Testacular was was getting his fame. I think starting to get.
What did that turn into? I forget.
Karma.
Was that Karma? Okay.
Karma. That was Karma. Yeah, they changed the name, I think, because
it's hard to keep track of all the names,
I had no idea that's what Karma started out as.
Yep. And someday I will tell you behind the scenes stories that I heard, but not on not on air.
It's not even that big a. Tell it. Nobody liked the name because it sounded dirty.
No. It's the okay. It's a different. Okay.
Talking about different stories.
Yeah.
This is like the whole React licensing thing. They changed when everybody complained about it.
He doesn't want to say mean things about karma because what goes around comes around.
Right. So
very nice, Chuck. Very well done.
I saw what you did there, and I'm blind. So if like let's say let's talk about in context of Angular these days. So for those who actually write unit tests, by doing surveys and stuff is still not that much. And that's part of the reason is sometimes it's too complicated to start with and start stuff like that. That's what I'm hearing. So how, like, what is the motivation for someone who like learned how to, so is used to like, I don't know, writing in Jasmine and writing his or hers unit tests in like, you know, in the standard, let's say, way. What will make that person move to use Intern for, let's say, let's stick with unit tests for now, and then like talk about the end-to-end.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So there's a couple advantages. One is that Intern does come with a BDD, the describe it, the standard unit test language that somebody that's familiar with Angular 4 would understand, right? It comes with that syntax out of the box. But one advantage that Intern has is that it understands promises as first-class citizens. And so writing asynchronous tests is really easy with Intern. One of the things in my experience with writing Angular applications and writing Angular tests is that there's some extras in the Angular core testing module, and they're designed to write asynchronous-like tests that look synchronous with like the fake async and the async and tick. With Intern, you don't have to use those at all. You can actually compile your tests with async await, pass the it function or the before or after each functions an async function, and then just await all the steps in the test, and you don't have to use those helpers, and everything just works. So one of the big advantages is asynchronous testing.
Nice.
So wait a second. How do you implement that? Because the way that async and fake async work is using Zone, right? And they make asynchronous stuff work. So you're just using async await to do everything.
Yeah.
But doesn't that require that the asynchronous operation you're calling to also supports that?
No. So if you're using TypeScript, you can down emit your async await. Same way, I believe Babel does the same thing. And as long as you've got a promise shim in the browser, it just works.
So about things like when stable that has a little bit more to do with Angular.
So when stable just returns a promise, right? And so you just await on that promise, and then the next statement you know it's ready.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really kind of slick. One of the things that I did, it was probably a month ago, was I took all of the unit tests in the quick start, the finished quick start for Angular 4, and I converted them over to Intern. And so if you go to github.com/theintern/example Angular, you can actually pull up all those tests and see the difference. And they're all written with async await, and they all just work.
Looking at it as we speak.
So there's no reason to have to, choose between fake async and async and do I have to tick this, or do I have to, fixture detect changes, etc. I think fixture detect changes is still there. Let's see. So I go to the component spec.
So I'm kind of trying to envision how this all goes together. If I want to bring this into my Angular app, how do I get that set up?
You would. So right now, Intern 4 is in. I think it's in beta. If not, it's late alpha. So API shouldn't change much. So you would npm install intern at next. You would create an intern.json and point it at your built application and just go. It's actually really simple to set up an intern project. And we've worked with the Istanbul community, and so all of the typings for Istanbul are in there. And as soon as you bring intern into your project and add intern to your TS config, you just add it to the types of your compiler. So that way it's in the global. It's all ready to go. There is a little different syntax for getting the describe it and before each. Those aren't globals, but they do live on the intern global. So you pull those off the intern global using the get plugin, and then for assertions we use Chai.
Nice. And if I want to use some other assertion library, I can just plug that into.
Yeah, you can use whatever assertion library you want to. So and then like for like spies and stuff, we recommend using I think it's sign-on. That's how I pronounce it. Synon. That's usually what we use. I'm not sure exactly which one it is.
You ever used Testable?
I think it's Suinon.
Have you guys tried out Testable?
Testable? I haven't used that one. I'm most familiar with Synon or Sign-In. I like the sandbox feature that it has. Where you can set up a sandbox and then just reset the whole sandbox, and so all your spies are reset on each test iteration. But I mean, the nice thing about with intern is that you can plug any assertion library, any spy library you want to into it, and it'll work.
Cool. So so you say that this project exists since 2012, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so mostly it was like around Dojo, like it was used for the Dojo framework unit testing and such.
Yeah, the original intention was to update our testing tool for the Dojo toolkit, but it was also to provide us with a testing framework for our applications that we write at SitePen as well.
Okay. And in terms of like now the adoption and stuff like that, have you started like, I don't know.
And Testacular wasn't out in 2012? It wasn't released for public?
It might have been, but it didn't.
But wasn't widely popular.
Like, it wasn't widely popular, and we wanted to be able to return a promise from our tests, and so with even with Jasmine, right? It wasn't until June of this year that you were able to return a promise from your Jasmine tests.
So my biggest question really is the big differences between this and current state of Karma. Did you kind of already cover that?
I think we did.
I think we
talked everything that you've talked about, your features like not having to use fake asynchronous support. Is that pretty much the big differences? Totally. How easy async is with the intern, is that the main difference between it and Karma?
Yeah, that, and it's out of the box. You're able to communicate with. Give me just a minute. You're able to communicate with like Sauce Labs, Browser Stack, Testing Bot. It's very easy to set up.
Karma for both end-to-end and unit tests.
Yeah.
I wonder about like speed differences, like the speed of running tests, and I don't know if it has something to do with also like promises and fake promises, let's say, because in one you're waiting for the next turn. I don't know if it affects that much, but like when did you do benchmarks or like comparison between the different other options, alternatives?
I'm not sure if we've done benchmarks for Intern 4. I'm sure we'll do those before we release the final.
Cool.
So it's comparable. I'd have to
Oh, that's okay.
Hold on. Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to pull down the quick start and then the example Angular and see the difference between them. One of the big things is with promises becoming first-class citizens in browsers, the asynchronous operations have become faster because it used to be that it relied on set timeout to do everything, which is 13 millisecond. There we go, resolution at least, and now it'll do it on next turn because of the browsers.
Whenever I have a new idea for an app, one of the first things I do is go find a domain name for it. The company I use and have used for years is hover.com. Hover.com has a clean and easy-to-use interface. They don't try to upsell me on a bunch of services I don't want or need, and they provide free whois masking for the domains I register. So if I register a domain that's not directly tied to devchat.tv, people don't need to know that I'm the one that owns it. They also offer domains with all kinds of top-level domains like .codes and .computer, and others like .coffee and .pizza. So when you have your next idea strike, go to hover.com/adventures to get it. Once again, that's hover.com/adventures.
Okay. In terms of, Joe, you want to ask something?
The Intern is a client-side product, not like a software as a service type thing, right?
Correct.
Cool. And like in terms of trying to figure out if it makes sense, I know when I use the Angular CLI, I have all the Webpack stuff configured to run with Karma and all that stuff. How does it work with Intern? Like how do they integrate together and such?
Right. So there's a plugin for Intern to do Webpack building. You just give it your Webpack configuration. At this time, we don't have an integration with Angular CLI. So that's something that we want to work on, and it kind of depends on how the Angular CLI team has if they have enabled hooking into it. I know that was something that they had looked or that they had put on the roadmap. I'm not sure if they've achieved that yet or not.
Okay, how big is the team that works on?
Let's see. Jason is the lead, and then we've got 3 or 4 guys that work from time to time with him.
Cool.
So yeah, we're a small team.
Do you go to lunch together?
Sometimes we'll eat lunch at the same time, since we're all distributed. Right. So I live in Iowa and Jason lives in Ohio. So we communicate quite a bit, and every once in a while we pull everybody together in one place and have a big event. But we do a lot of one-to-one communication and that sort of stuff.
Because I don't trust teams that go to lunch together every day. So that's good that you're remote.
That's hilarious.
Your standards are a little wonky, Shai.
What can I do?
Hey, teams that go to lunch together don't get anything done.
Right.
Exactly.
The over-lunched projects. Oh my gosh. So I kind of wanted to ask about end-to-end testing, and we had Gleb, I think it was, on to talk about Cypress and end-to-end testing a while ago. And, there are a lot of options out there. You've mentioned some of them, WebDriver and Phantom JS, which was really cool when it came out and is not my favorite thing anymore. Just because I really haven't seen it updated and it's pretty limited in what, it's useful these days. But anyway, I'm curious, WebDriver I've used off and on in the past, and it's kind of a pain. Like they're working on that, and so now it's only kind of a pain instead of really a pain. But yeah, I'm wondering. So do you hook into WebDriver, or do you do something different?
So we have a library called Leadfoot, which
I love your library names.
I know.
So, yeah.
I wish you would do a course on how to name things, because at our job, we're just so bad at it. I swear, we just choose random things and we're like, yeah, that looks good. So you can give us all a lesson on that.
Like Testacular.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Anyway,
well, I can't. No, you're fine. So I did not pick the names, and I am also bad at picking names. So it's a good thing that I didn't pick them. So Leadfoot is our module package to communicate with Selenium WebDriver, and it doesn't use like wd.js or Selenium WebDriver, the JavaScript package. It is its own thing, and again, it is promise based. It uses, if you're not using async await, it uses a chained syntax. And so one of the advantages that Leadfoot has over something like Selenium WebDriver or like with Protractor is that like with Protractor, it sets up Selenium WebDriver with a control flow out of the box, and then that manages your promises for you. So you write your tests like they're async or like they're synchronous, but they're really not. It's just adding something to the queue. And then when it hits that spot in the queue, it'll run your thing. So if you put a breakpoint where your command is run, it's not actually doing that. With Intern and Leadfoot, it's actually running those when it gets to that point in your test, especially if you use async await. But even with the chained syntax, a dot then. The callback is gonna run when it gets there in your test, and so it's really easy to debug. There's no like hidden magic behind the scenes of what's going on. It's just a simple that fires off a request. When that request's done, it comes back and it resolves your promise. Does that answer the question?
I think it's interesting. You mentioned, yeah, it pretty much does. You mentioned that you can run AiA and all these other browsers. WebDriver used to only really support one or two, and so is this kind of a recent thing and I just haven't used it recently, or how do you get it to support all those different browsers and run it across all those different targets?
Right. A lot of that has to do with Selenium and the browsers that it does support. And Selenium's been doing a really good job with keeping up with the newer browsers. And so since we're just using I believe we're just using the JSON wire protocol over Selenium, it's whatever Selenium uses, that's what we do, or that's what we can do. There's also one other thing that we do with Leadfoot is that we run some tests before your tests start, so that way we can detect if the browser has some weird. We're basically feature testing what the Selenium driver is capable of doing, and then if it's not able to, let's say, execute something synchronously, we've got a workaround for that in Leadfoot. So we try and make the experience across the different web drivers as well as smooth as possible.
Gotcha.
I know the Protractor also is basically promise based, right? So maybe I missed it, but how, like, what's the benefits other than like writing the code in the same place, which is a benefit, like Protractor versus Intern in terms of the benefits of Intern?
Right.
If you covered that already, so forget about it. But maybe
kind of. I mean, so the biggest, the two big things are that you're running your unit tests with the same framework as your functional tests, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't have two tools to configure, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then that Intern, when your program hits the spot in the program, or in the test hits the spot in the test, you're actually at that spot where, unless you've set up Protractor to not manage your promises for you, you've got to use something like browser.pause or browser.debugger. And so, like with Intern, you can just launch it with node inspect, like node -- inspect, and then set some breakpoints and then debug your tests. With Protractor, there's, if I remember correctly, there's a wrapper for that.
I see, because I see like a giant call of dot chaining, and I can't remember. Can you like break on like the fourth dot something and debug that? Because you'd
have to set up a dot then.
Oh, okay.
For that, and then do a debugger and inspect the state.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So one other thing that I noticed looking at the Leadfoot, and I'm assuming that Intern is the same, is the license. And some things that are going on with another framework that I'm not going to name right now with their license has kind of got me interested in this, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
You're not using MIT like, everybody else that I know. And so I'm curious,
right.
Is there a reason for that, and what's the difference?
So we use the new BSD license, the BSD3 clause, and it's a little different than the MIT. They're pretty comparable. The new BSD license allows companies to use what is it? To use the code in a closed source environment and not have to re-release any changes that they make to the library. And from day one, I think Dojo has been licensed with the new BSD license, and so it's a license that we've always used. We're very familiar with it, and so everything that comes from SitePen and Dojo is going to be new BSD license. It's very comparable to MIT though.
Yeah, it looks a lot.
No. Let's make it a controversy. So let's fight.
I know, right?
Yeah, add a patent clause to that. Oh, am I getting too close to the?
Well, ours is West Coast, and you guys is East Coast, and the West Coast is the best coast. Okay.
Why don't you make it like new BSD plus something?
Right?
Oh, there we go. Anything else that we should jump on here talking about this before we go to picks? It seems like it's reasonably easy to set up, and you can use a lot of the same tools that you're already using if that's the way you want to go. So.
Yeah. One thing I did that I forgot to mention is that one thing that Protractor kind of makes it hard to do is to get coverage information for your functional tests. And out of the box, Intern allows you to get coverage information for those functional tests. And then it combines that coverage information with your unit tests, so you can see exactly how much your tests are covered.
Now you're talking. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Usually, people that, again, if you are writing unit tests and you're writing end-to-end tests, so usually the amount of end-to-end tests are like usually lower, much lower than the unit tests, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the time it takes to run it totally. Each time. So that's why I asked about the, like, I don't know, the speed or the, like, you know, maybe it's the same, maybe it's faster, because if we can actually make it somehow faster, maybe we could encourage like more people to write end-to-end and to cover more ground that way.
Right. Well, and one of the difficulties with writing end-to-end tests is that if it's hard to debug those tests, then you don't want to run them, and you don't want to write them. And so that's one of the great things about Intern is that it's a lot easier to debug them. You can drop in and inspect things that are coming back from the server quite easily, and you don't have to use console statements or like, you know, I've been doing JavaScript for a while, and so we used to use alert statements all the time back before there was a console.
Yeah. I used to write in Notepad.
Yeah, I totally used to do alert statements as well. Used to.
Erases alert statement immediately. I'm like, how many of those do I still have committed?
Yeah.
Yeah, ngdoc.io, you get on there and it alerts your username.
It's working.
alert your password.
There we go.
No, the username would be way too useful. It's more like just cheeky comments, you know? Like, this function ran, go you.
or it pops up and it says, yep, it works. Yep, it still works. Got here too.
Wanna buy...
Usually it was an IE that we would have these, and so it was usually some sort of cursing of
oh yes,
because IE was the last one to get a console, and it was like IE6, and it was just like
accidentally in production, so that whenever like your users go to it, you say get a better browser, and like a link to Chrome or something pops up.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a curse, and then want to buy a license to WinRAR, and then another curse.
All right, we are devolving quickly. Should we go to picks?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Whenever I have a new idea for an app, one of the first things I do is go find a domain name for it. The company I use and have used for years is hover.com. Hover.com has a clean and easy-to-use interface. They don't try to upsell me on a bunch of services I don't want or need, and they provide free whois masking for the domains I register. So if I register a domain that's not directly tied to devchat.tv, people don't need to know that I'm the one that owns it. They also offer domains with all kinds of top-level domains like .codes and .computer, and others like .coffee and .pizza. So when you have your next idea strike, go to hover.com/adventures to get it. Once again, that's hover.com/adventures. All right. Shai, do you have some picks for us?
I have only one pick today, although I really, really wanted two. But yeah. So my pick is Angular Connect, which is coming up in November. And yours truly is going to do another show there. So I'm going to do something... Yeah, so it's called NG Game Show, and it's going to be a live game show like on TV with prizes and like questions. So the goal is to actually teach Angular by asking like hard questions and then explaining like the answers, but also it's like built around if you get the answer wrong, you need to do something embarrassing in front of everyone. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, and I really like the conference in general. I think it's really cool conference, and they invest like ngConf. They invest a lot of time into making it like fun, and inclusive and friendly and all that stuff. So that's my pick.
All right, Joe, what are your picks?
I certainly got one pick. This is the same pick that I picked before. A JavaScript Jabber. It's this last episode. I've just been so impressed with it. It's a book called The Behavior Gap. And on its surface, it's about investing. But I just sort of discovered that it was so amazing that it actually spends a bunch of time talking about just living a happy life and all this sort of life advice. And I read a lot of books about making good life choices and, improving how you live your life. And this book has actually been as good or better than any of those books, even though it's not even about that topic. So I have just been really enjoying it, reading it a ton, really like it. And so that's my that's my pick is The Behavior Gap.
Awesome. Alyssa, what are your picks?
I just have one pick. All right. So Joe's totally working on his life in his spare time, and I feel like a horrible person because my pick is kind of the exact opposite. I've been playing a ton of Destiny 2 lately, and it's an absolutely killer game. If you liked Halo or the first Destiny, then you have to be playing it right now because it's amazing. So yeah, I guess I'm wasting my life, whereas Joe is bettering his. I don't know. It's horrible contrast there, but yes.
It's what happens when you get older.
Yeah, I want the last 10 minutes of my life to be great.
Well, I hope I never outgrow video games, but that makes me sad if so.
Yeah, I don't want to outgrow video games either. The Atari is awesome. Sorry,
hey, if you don't want to outgrow video games, then you got to come to NGConf this year.
Ooh,
I can't
is that
explain why that is true, but I'm telling you right now.
Hey, teaser.
Yep, I'm totally teasing.
All right, I interrupted you, Alyssa. Was that your only pick, or did you have something else?
Nope, yep. That was it. We're good. We're done.
All right, so I'm going to jump in with two picks. One of them is, so I have this tendency now to reread books, especially these sort of self-help and growth books. Yeah, I'm old like Joe. So anyway, the one I've been reading, and this one's a business book. It's called Profit First, and it just talks about how to run your business and how to prioritize profit and things like that. So I'm really enjoying it, and the author reads the book, and he kind of has all these sidebars that are pretty funny. The other pick I have, and I haven't tried this yet. Sometimes I do these optimistic picks, hoping they're awesome, and this one looks really awesome. It's called Movie Pass, and it's at moviepass.com. And what it is it's a membership that allows you to go see basically as many movies as you want at as many, and it has all of the theaters, all the big theaters. So around here, we have the AMC theaters, we have the Cinemark theaters. I think I'm missing one or two of the big theater companies. But anyway, so if you want to go see a movie in the theater, you can. It also has a lot of the cheaper theaters, right, that have the movies after they've been out for a while. And so if I wanted to go see one of those, or sometimes those are pretty empty, I've found, just depending on the night and how many places they have. So, if I kind of
I totally used to have MoviePass. I got it whenever they were still in beta. And I was looking into signing up again because they recently dropped their monthly subscription rate. It's if you see more than 2 movies a month, you're saving money by having MoviePass, essentially.
Yeah, that's what I figured too. The movie tickets cost anywhere between about, if you get a matinee, it's $7. And then, you can pay all the way up to $9 or $10. It doesn't look like it gets you into the theaters where they bring you food and stuff, but that's fine.
So we totally found a way to cheat the system, and I don't know if I should share this, but it's just a debit card that they load up with money. And so if you pick a movie that's around the same time, it's going to load that much money onto your debit card. So my husband and I would, if we wanted to ever go to one that serves food or go to 3D or something and it wasn't available on the MoviePass app, we'd check into just a normal one and we would say, put this much on this card and then pay the rest on our own. So I don't know if that's legal, and I'm totally not doing that anymore. But yeah,
Nice.
I tested it. I was like, I don't think this is like a gift card. And it's actually just a debit card. They load up, and they make sure that you're actually at the location you say you are. But yeah.
Okay. Note to editor: save Alyssa from jail.
I don't know.
We need a GoFundMe for her bond, right?
That's right. So yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to using it. I'm still waiting to get my card. But yeah, apparently you have to have a smartphone in order to use it because you browse the theaters and pick your movie. So anyway, so that was an optimistic pick, and maybe I'll come back in a few weeks and say I don't like it, but I'm hoping I don't have to do that. Bryan, what are your picks?
All right. Well, I'm going to go with the lame one and pick Intern. No, I'm kidding. No, I do want to, pick there's a blog post at SitePen.com about using Intern with Angular, and the SitePen blog has a lot of different articles on different topics. There's quite a few on there on Angular. There's one that I wrote on using web components in Angular. So one of my picks is the SitePen blog. And then my second pick would be to read if you normally read nonfiction, read some fiction. If you normally read fiction, read some nonfiction. And if you don't normally read, pick up a book and read. It's something that my wife and I try and get our kids to do. And it's good to just put down the electronics and do it. I too like video games, and I like the interactive stuff. So, but I try and make it a point to read quite a bit.
Awesome. And then one other thing that I was wondering if you could share with us, your Twitter, GitHub, or I guess you blog on the SitePen blog, but yeah, just any place where people can find you and see what you're working on these days.
Yeah, my Twitter, I don't usually put a lot of what I'm working on there. It's at Bryan Forbes. It's Bryan. And then GitHub is the same thing, github.com/Bryan Forbes. And I can put those in the chat for you.
All right, great. Well, thank you for coming and talking to us about this tool. Hopefully there are some folks out there that are
thanks.
looking for something like this that'll solve their problem. And we'll wrap this up and we'll catch you all next week.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, later.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.